Today we'll be changing out this Hayward CL220 offline feeder with a new one. I highly recommend using one of these chlorine feeders if you're actually putting chlorine tabs in your actual skimmer. These are a great investment, and they're fairly reasonably priced. With our pump off, we don't really know what's in this feeder. This thing could be completely full of chlorine tabs and gas. So we don't want to just like open it up or have a bunch of water spewing out everywhere and getting chlorine all over the place. So we're going to go ahead and turn the valve to off, and this is going to lock this side so we don't have a bunch of water running out this, theoretically, if everything's working right. And on this side, well, basically when we take it off, we'll just tip it up and we shouldn't have anything coming out of it. And we'll just take her out to the pool side here. And whatever's inside of it, the water wise, will dump into the pool. If there's any tablets in there, we'll salvage them. With our old feeder, another thing is the actual locking latch right here to let you know when the actual top's been tightened down properly is broke. And once this breaks, as you put these on, it just ends up getting tighter and tighter and tighter, so you can't even get the things off. So that's where we're at, is I can't even get the lid off of this one. Pretty tough. So the customer's been having issues with it. And there you go, in a well ventilated area. We got a nice breeze today. We're gonna go ahead and pour whatever's left in there into the pool, making sure we don't lose any tablets along with it. And there is some tablets in there, so if we would have opened this up in the pump room, we would have probably got gassed. So with our new chlorine feeder, like I said, they're a great product. This is an offline. It can be pretty much installed on any pool, as long as it doesn't have like a cord-rated hose like your above ground pools. But I'll have a full link in my description box, so you can pick one of these up off of Amazon if you want one. And that's kind of it. They're pretty reasonable, and they're a lot better option than just putting your chlorine tabs in your skimmer basket. Upon unboxing, we've got our new chlorine feeder unit. And then it's going to come with everything that you need to install it, besides a few tools that you'll need. It does come with some Teflon tape. I like to use a little bit of a better Teflon. This is Monster, but the only difference is I'll use 3 wraps of this on the threaded parts, or if you use the regular white, you'll probably have to use 5 or 6. Not a biggie. The only other tools we'll need is I'm just going to use a pair of channel locks to tighten the fittings. You'll need a 5/16 nut driver or a standard screwdriver. And then upon replacing any of these actual fittings that go to the actual plumbing, if you haven't got a feeder already and you're going to install a new one, you will need a 3/8 inch drill bit to punch a hole into your plumbing to actually install these lines here. I'll also go over where these lines should be installed on your actual plumbing. I didn't install this one, and I can already see a little bit of an issue with this line right here. So we'll go over all that too. So we're going to go ahead and do our lines that actually go to the offline feeder first. And you're going to have one line that goes to the inlet and one line that goes to the outlet. And that's it. In the kit that comes with it, they're going to come with these little nipple fittings here and a washer. So basically we'll put that rubber washer in there. That's it. You can see there's a little bit of a curve to the actual fitting, and that's so it goes onto the actual round PVC pipe. These systems work on 1.5 and 2-inch line. With our hose clamp, we'll be able to slide this little nipple on this fitting into our PVC after we drill our 3/8 inch hole, and then basically this hose clamp is going to go over the top, and we'll just tighten it down, and it'll actually squeeze this actual fitting into the pipe, and then basically tighten it down onto that washer. So our first line we're going to want to drill on this system is going to be our inlet side, and that's going to be the pressurized side that pushes the water into our actual chlorinator. So we want to do a hole in between the pump and the actual heater on this one. Obviously I didn't hook this one up initially, so we already have a hole back here in this actual elbow, and that's kind of it. I don't like to drill anywhere on the back side of these elbows because it can cause a vortex in the water, and it could have a little bit of effect on how much pressure we're actually getting to our feeder to actually operate right. But in this case, since it's there, we're going to go ahead and use it. And we know it's worked before, but just not one of my hot spots to put a hole. So I normally want to go before an elbow, so that way we're not getting a vortex on it and it's affecting our flow to our actual chlorinator. So with our hose clamp open and our rubber washer on our actual fitting, that's kind of it. We'll look at it to see where that curve is, and that should fit right around the actual pipe itself, like so. And then with this little hole on this actual hose clamp, it'll just go right over that fitting. You want to get it to where you can actually get to it with your actual tools too. So with that in place, we'll go ahead and tighten down this hose clamp. The new chlorine feeder comes with all these new parts, so I like to replace everything anyways because it's all plastic, and as we all know, plastic wears out, gets brittle. So chances are down the road, if you don't replace everything, it's gonna break on you or start leaking soon anyways. You can actually see that rubber washer kind of starting to squish out, so we know that's on there good enough. The next one we're going to want to install after the heater, and this is the output on the actual chlorine feeder. So this is actually where the chlorinated water is coming out of the feeder, and then we definitely don't want that actual chlorine coming out of that feeder to actually pass through our heater, because the heater exchanges are usually made of copper, and as we know, all of our trichlorchlorine tablets are just loaded with cyanuric acid, and they have a really low pH in the 4 range. So we want to get past the heater. So what we're going to do is, as we can see on our heater, we know this arrow's got our water coming in. This is going to be our output from the exchange, and this line's going to run directly back to our pool, to our return. So basically we'll punch a 3/8 inch hole in this return line after the heater. I like to go as close to where my feeder and pump is, so that way I'm not using more hose than I need to. You can see they punched it right here, and then the line goes into the ground right here and goes back to the returns. So it's fairly close, it's away from the heater. This one will work, so we're going to go ahead and use that existing hole and run a line to that one also. We got 2 fittings that we need to put on this actual feeder. They don't come installed, and that's kind of it. So we're going to have an inlet and we're going to have an outlet. The outlet's going to have a check valve in it, and what a check valve is basically this one just has a little ball in it, and what it does is it prevents the water from coming back to the feeder the wrong way. So when we screw this basically screw this into the back of the feeder here on the outlet, it's going to prevent the water from coming back in that line and actually going backwards through the feeder. When adding your Teflon to the actual fittings, that's kind of it. I like to hold them in my left hand, and with the Teflon in my right, we're going to go under and over, and we're going to put 3 to 5 wraps depending on what Teflon we're using. 3 with the good stuff, 5 with the cheaper stuff that's white. By going over and under, basically we've wrapped our Teflon in a direction, so when we go to tighten this up, it's not going to unravel our Teflon. So basically this one has the actual ball valve in it, so we know this is going to be on the outside. So we'll go ahead and thread that one in hand tight as we can get it with our hand, and then we'll just give it a few more cranks with a pair of channel locks. Not a big deal. That one should be secure. And then we'll go ahead and do our inlet side, and that's the side that actually has the control knob on it. And as you can see, this one has no ball in it, so it doesn't have a check valve. So you don't want to get these mixed up or the feeder won't work, because believe it or not, I have people that are professionals that work on hotels and apartments, and they put these things together and don't read the instructions, and then they call us up and say, hey, our feeder's not working. And this is the first thing I go to, is to make sure that that check valve with the ball in it's on the outside, and basically the one that doesn't have the check valve is on the inside. So we'll go ahead and hand tighten this one in. Give it a couple turns with our channel locks, make sure she's secure. So all that's left on this now is basically to run our lines to the inlet and outlet side of the feeder, And it does come with 4 of these compression nuts, and basically these are just gonna push onto the actual hose, and then basically the hose will just push into these fittings, and then you just hand tighten these down and it locks them into place. Real simple, real easy, and it does the job. So we'll go ahead and start with our inlet side, and that one's going to be the one that's between the pump and the heater. And we'll just go ahead and push that in, and then we'll just hand tighten this down. And we'll just kind of run this line somewhere where it's not in our way. We don't want it by our multi-port. We don't want it over top of our actual pump. So we'll bring it around here under and make sure we have sufficient amount of line. And we'll just go ahead and give it a snip with some scissors. Another tool that I didn't show at the beginning. Sorry about that. Must have some scissors. So with that line, we'll go ahead and push one of our compression nuts on. Go ahead and put it in the front side of our feeder and just tighten that down by hand. That one's secure. All we have left is our outlet, and that's the one that's going to go to the line that's after the heater and just before the line goes back into the actual pool on the return. So we'll go ahead and run a line for that one. So in a situation that you do have one of your feeder lines basically go out on you, they do make a replacement part bag that will basically replace all the parts to repair one line. Or if you find yourself that they didn't give you enough tubing to actually run the tubing where you need it to go on your actual system, it does come with tubing. And I'll have this actually in my description box as a link also. It's the CLX 220GA. So this one's going to be a little bugger to get to, so I'll have to get back down here, but we've got our compression fitting on. So we're going to go ahead and push this one on, and we'll hand tighten this one down real quick. So with our return line hooked up, and all that's left to do is put a compression nut on this one, and we'll go ahead and feed the tube in, slide the compression nut on, and give it our hand tighten. So with all of our lines run, this feeder is installed. All it's left to do is to put some chlorine tablets in it, twist the lid down, and that's it. You want to watch, it's got this little thumb tab back here, and when the feeder's actually screwed down to the tightness it's supposed to be, it'll catch that and lock in place. Another big thing that people mistake is they try to twist this off, they don't push this tab in, and they just break it. And that's when the thing gets tighter and tighter and tighter every time you use it, and it wears out the O-ring on here. So make sure you push that in to release it every time, and the thing will last a lot longer. So we'll go ahead and test this out, make sure everything's right, make sure we don't have any leaks on it. So with that off, we'll go ahead and load this up with chlorine, put our lid on, and go ahead and start our chlorine feeder. So you're gonna have to work with this for a few days, testing your water. That's kind of it. You might want to just start it off with maybe 2 or 3 on the volume with about 6 to 8 tablets in here, and just see how it goes. If you start getting too much free chlorine in your actual pool, you can dial it back a bit, or if you're finding yourself not having enough chlorine in your pool, you can open it up a little bit. And like I said at the beginning, if this thing's fully open, it'll break down 2.5 pounds almost, 2.3 pounds to be exact, of chlorine a day. So if you've got this thing filled up with tabs, that's what it's going to put in your pool. These things are a lifesaver, especially if you like to go on vacation for a few days to a week. You can fill this up, set it, your pool's getting chlorine. They're just a great buy. Thanks for joining Pool Elementary on our installation of the Hayward Chlorine Offline CL220 feeder. And like I said, I'll have this item in my description box with a quick link if you want to purchase one of these. And as always, another happy pool with Pool Elementary.